Today, I'm going to be showing you the top 27 settings that you need to change on the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now, some of these are going to be security related, others will help save battery or improve performance, and some will even unlock new features. All of these settings are going to be impactful changes that'll make your experience using your Fold 7 even better. To start, let's give your phone a name. Now, this is very important as this is going to make it easier to find your phone if you're trying to connect it, say via hotspot or via Bluetooth. So to make sure that you change your name, what we're going to do is go into settings and then scroll all the way to the bottom to where we find about this phone right here. And then here you'll see your current name for the device, and we can then tap onto rename to name this to whatever we like. And I suggest you name it to something that you can easily identify to make sure you connect to the right phone when you are looking for it. Next, I want to talk about the home screen. So as you can see, by default, the home screen that will show on your cover screen will mirror that to what you have set to your main display. In other words, the left-hand half of your main display is what will be shown on your cover screen by default. However, I don't know about you, but I use my cover screen differently from how I use my main display. So there may be certain applications or certain widgets that you do or don't want set up on your cover screen, but don't want on your main display. Now, there is a setting that will allow you to essentially unlock having two home screens on your Galaxy Fold 7. So you can have a separate layout for your main display to that of your cover screen. But there is a setting that we need to change to set this up. And to do that, we're going to jump into the settings app. And then from here, we're going to scroll to where we find home screen right here. And then in here, we have cover screen mirroring, and we can tap onto that, and then we can turn that off. And as you can see, that will then enable us to have two completely different layouts, both for the main screen as well as the cover screen. On the subject of switching between the main screen and the cover screen, as you can see by default, let's say I'm looking through my gallery on my main screen. If I were to then close the phone and switch over to the cover screen, you'll see that by default that app closes and I have to then relaunch it to go back into that app. Now there is a setting to change which will allow you to seamlessly continue an application from your main screen over on your cover screen. And this is something that I find really useful, especially if say you're looking at a map or you're reading something. It's just great to be able to quickly switch displays and keep that app exactly where you left it. So to change this, we're going to jump into settings, and then we're going to scroll once again to where we find display, and then here we're going to look at continue apps on cover screen. Go ahead and tap into that, and here we have two options. First of all, we have always, so let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, I've got settings open. I close my phone and voila, we have settings. I can continue it just like I had on my main screen. The second option, however, which is what I like to use, we have swipe up to continue app. So check this out. If I now have settings open on my main screen, close my phone, by default, it will show the regular lock screen, but there was this little arrow. Hold on, let me do it one more time here. You'll see this little white arrow right there, which I can then swipe up to instantly launch the same application that I left off with over on the main display. And this, I think, is the perfect middle ground where you can easily continue an app, but then of course also have quick access to your home screen if that is what you want. So just to reiterate, that is the middle option here in settings, swipe up to continue app, and that I think is a great way to continue apps from your main screen over to your cover screen. And next, I want to show you a setting that can literally make your Fold 7 faster. Now, did you know it is important to restart your phone every so often? This doesn't just apply to your phone, but also things like a tablet, a computer, even TV, all these electronic devices. It's good to restart them every once in a while to restart, or to reset the RAM, as well as any cache files that have built up, and that over time can actually slow down your device. So there's a really neat setting that Samsung has that will automatically restart your phone when it is needed. So to turn this on, we're going to go into settings, scroll all the way down to where we find device care right here. And then in here, we are going to scroll to where we find auto optimization. Tap into that. And then here we have auto restart, and you want to make sure that restart when needed is on. You can also have it restart on a fixed schedule. This I think is overkill. Instead, restart when needed is going to be very useful as it's going to automatically restart when your phone is not in use. That is important to note, is never have I had my phone restart in a moment where I was using it or needed to use it. So it's very subtle and out of the way, but this way your phone is always running at its best, making sure it restarts when it needs to. And then next, I've got three really essential security settings that I want to quickly go through as well. And the first one is called App Protection. And in the same device care menu over on settings, we're going to go back to that main page right here. So once you tap onto device care, we're going to tap onto App Protection. And then if this isn't on already, you want to tap on the three-dot menu here, then tap onto App Protection Settings, and you want to make sure that this is turned on. Now, what does this do? Well, this is going to scan your phone automatically in the background every once in a while, go through all the applications that you have on the phone to make sure that there is no malware or viruses on your device, where if there is, you will be flagged and you can easily remove them from here. You can also do a manual scan. As you can see, I've got that running right now, but it will also do this periodically in the background. So it's one of those features you hope to never need, but is reassuring to have in the background. And the second essential security setting has to do with your lock screen, more specifically how you unlock your Fold 7, as Samsung offers many different ways to do so, but some are definitely better than others. Some I recommend, and others I think you should stay away from. And let me show you what I mean. So over in settings, we are going to scroll to where we find lock screen and AOD. And then in here, we're going to click onto or tap onto screen lock and biometrics. Then you have to quickly type in your PIN. And there we go. And in here, we have all the different methods to unlock your Fold 7. So let me start off with biometrics. That's most important. You'll see we have the option between face recognition as well as fingerprint. Now, I suggest you do not use face recognition, as the face recognition on Samsung phones is nowhere near as comprehensive as, say, Face ID is on iPhone. Instead, where Samsung really shines is with their excellent fingerprint sensors, including here the one that you have on your Fold 7. It is super fast, super secure, and that is what I recommend you use to unlock your phone. You can see I even have multiple fingers set up this way. No matter how I'm holding my phone, I can quickly reach for that sensor with my index or with my thumb, and that's the way that I recommend you unlock your phone. It's going to be much more secure than your face recognition. Secondly, of course, up here you have your secondary method to unlock, which will be either PIN, password, pattern, or swipe. The ones I don't recommend you use are going to be swipe as well as pattern. They're going to be a lot easier to guess or to see. Of course, a password is ideal. I use a PIN, and I think that's best for most. Just use a 4 or even 6-digit number. And the last security setting has to do with notifications. So over on the main page of settings, we're going to tap onto notifications. And then here we are going to go into hide content when locked. You want to tap into that and make sure that that is turned on, or in other words, set to hide content when locked. This way, when a notification comes in, you'll still see that notification on your lock screen. You'll even see what type of notification it is, let's say a message. However, the content of that message, so the actual content of it, won't show until your phone is unlocked. For privacy reasons and security reasons, I think it's very important to have this set to locked. You only want your phone to be, you only want that content to be visible once the phone is unlocked, or to those who say are able to unlock your phone. For the rest, you want to make sure that that is stayed private. Speaking of staying private, this has to do with passwords. In other words, making your passwords invisible and a lot harder to see while you are typing them. Of course, we often use our phones in public, and chances are you're going to have to enter a password every once in a while. And you know how when you enter a password, the character will briefly show before it turns into a black dot. Well, there is a setting that we can change to make sure that the character doesn't even briefly show, and it immediately turns to a black dot, making it much harder to follow along or to kind of read the password. Say if someone's looking over your shoulder or sitting next to you in a plane or whatever it may be. I think it's a much more secure way to do it. So what you want to do is go into settings, and then we're going to scroll to where we find security and privacy. And then in here, we're going to scroll down to where we find more security settings right here. And here we have make passwords visible, and you want to make sure that that is turned off. That is essentially going to make passwords invisible. Like I said, this way, when you type the passwords, the characters will never show. It'll just appear as black dots. The next setting I want to show you is to enable a really cool feature, and that is called flex mode. So as you can see, when I have the Fold 7 set up at an angle like this, it is perfect to watch videos, say while you're eating a meal, as your screen will automatically be propped up. But with flex mode, it goes one step further, where as you can see, we get this custom user interface on the bottom of the display to, in this case, easily control my video. You get your video playback. Other things you can do, for example, are here. If we tap this, we can even easily open up a second application if you want to multitask that way. I like that the shortcut is built in there. And then secondly, we also have this option here that's going to bring down your your notifications. And then lastly, we can also take a screenshot. And here we can even bring up a full-on touchpad. You'll see we get a little cursor here on the screen, and you can kind of use it like a small laptop. We can even scroll here. You get your playback controls. You can even bring up a keyboard this way. This is also useful if, say, you're going through your gallery and you want to cycle through your photos with friends. You can just simply swipe to go between them. So check this out here in the gallery. Let's say you got some friends around and you want to show them pictures. All you have to do is swipe here along the bottom of the screen to quickly go through them. And this, I think, is a great way to share photos and to really share those memories and make the phone really add a new dimension to how you use your phone, right? Typically, you wouldn't be able to fold your phone. This is a little bit like a tiny laptop. It's kind of cool. But by default, there is a setting, of course, that we have to enable to make this work. So let me show you how to do this. So what you want to do is you you want to go over, first of all, into settings, and then we're going to scroll to where we find advanced features. That's that yellow icon right here. And then here we have flex mode panel, and you want to make sure that that there is turned on. That's what's going to enable that flex mode UI, that custom user interface. Now, it won't be supported on all applications, but I find a lot of applications, like for example YouTube, like your gallery, that where it would just make sense to use this flex panel mode, often do support it. And again, it allows you to use your Galaxy in a way that is super unique to this phone, and I think is quite cool. On the subject of things that I think are quite cool, let's talk about multitasking. Probably one of the best features of the Fold 7, as of course this large 8-inch display truly excels at multitasking, but there are definitely some settings that we're going to change to make it even better on this phone. So first of all, what you want to do is to enable multitasking for all applications, as by default, not all applications will support it. I know a lot of games don't, certain video playback apps won't either. So what we can do is go into settings, and then we're going to go back into advanced features where we just were, and then in here we're going to go into labs, the second option, and here you want to turn on multi-view for all apps. This means all applications will work in multi-view. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say I bring up the YouTube app here, and if I want to bring in a second app, I can go ahead and just drag in Chrome either to the left or below or above it, and as you can see, we are now using two applications at the same time, and this will now work with all apps. On the subject of split screen multitasking, let me now show you the quickest way to do this. So of course, by default, say you launch YouTube, you want to open up a second app, you just want to bring up your taskbar, and you can tap and drag that second app into place, as you can see. However, there is an even quicker way to initiate a split screen view, but there's a setting first that we need to turn on, and to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then we're going to go into advanced features, and then go into multi-window. And here we're going to turn on show multi-window menu with one window. As you can see, this new tiny little line will appear on the top of the display, and then from here you can see you can instantly enter split screen mode like so, with just two little taps, and you can bring in any other application. It'll show you your recent apps or other apps that are open, and you can literally add in any other app that you like as well. Now you'll notice this little line here always will appear when you have two apps, but with this setting it's also going to appear with just one. So let's tap on it here to close one. You'll see that little line stays there, allowing you to quickly tap it once and then bring in a second app. Now what is also cool, let me quickly show you before we move on to the next one, is you can also essentially have the app float over whatever else is open. So over your main screen, you can drag it to the corner if you like, you can resize it, and of course to close it, just simply drag it here to the bottom. So having that little line always visible is just a very efficient way and a quick way to multitask on the fly. This next setting is super neat, as it's essentially going to make this 8-inch display feel even larger. So let me show you what I mean. As you can see, I've currently got two apps running here in split screen multitasking, and you can see that the apps do largely fill the display, but not fully. There's this weird little gap here at the bottom, that gray gap. You also have things like your status bar here at the top, which takes up some room. So there is a way to actually properly full screen these apps and take up all of the screen real estate. And to do this in settings, what we're going to do is jump into advanced features right here, go back into multi-window, and here you have the final option, full screen in split screen view. Now check out the difference. Notice particularly the menu bar and this gray thing, this gray bar here at the bottom. Look at that, what a difference. So this is going to then add probably a good 10, maybe even 15% or so of screen space to your applications, letting them run in an even larger view, so you get more information shown on a list here, and you get more data, of course, or more content rather, if you are browsing the web. So something I definitely recommend you turn on. Now importantly, if I go ahead and close this, you'll see that this only activates if you're running two apps. So if I've got one app running here, you still get your menu bar at the top, and you don't get that extra gray space at the bottom. This will only affect once you run two applications, allowing you to get even more screen space for this already large display. But that's enough multitasking for now. Let's take a look at the cover screen display, more specifically the always on display. Now this is going to be off by default, but there is a way to activate this on your Galaxy Fold 7. And to do this, I'm going to show you how we're going to go into the settings app here, and then over on the main page, we are going to scroll to where we find lock screen and AOD. And then in here, we have always on display, and we can tap to turn that on. Now we can also tap into this menu to customize this further. This here gives you a little preview. So for example, you can choose to show or hide your wallpaper. As you can see here, I've got that showing right now. This of course looks nice, but will take a little bit more battery as your screen will be brighter. This also can make it perhaps a little more distracting. So personally, what I like to do instead, let me unlock it here. There we go. What I like to do instead is to not show the wallpaper and then just show the time as well as the now bar. And as you can see, this gives you a much more minimalistic view of the always on display, which I think looks great. Just gives you the essentials, including your little widgets there for your weather. But this is very out of the way and I think subtle, which I think is great. Now, the last option here that I do want to show you or setting is the when to show option. Now, you want to make sure that this is either set to auto or perhaps even to tap to show, but I've never set it to always, as this way when the phone, for example, is in your pocket, or if it is say down face down on a table, or even at night while you're charging, you don't want the always on display on. And I think auto does a great job at detecting that and will then turn it off when it's appropriate. Having it always on, truly always on, again, it can waste a lot of battery. Like I said, in your pocket, it doesn't need to be on. So in that sense, I think auto is going to be the perfect sweet spot for when to show your always on display. And now back on the main screen, let's talk about improving the sound quality of your Fold 7. So to do this, we are first of all going to jump into settings and then find the sounds and vibration menu. And then in here, first of all, we can go ahead and change the vibration intensity. So if we tap onto vibration intensity here, you'll see that depending on the type of notification that comes in, whether it be a call or say a typical app notification, you can have it vibrate more strongly, more prominently, so you're more likely to feel it. However, if you have things like a system notification or perhaps media related vibrations which aren't as important, you can go ahead and turn those down. This way, if you got your phone in your pocket, depending on how intensely you feel the vibration, you can kind of already sense what has come in. So you kind of know whether to check your phone or whether you know it's something system related. It's like, okay, that can wait. So really useful. You kind of get a feel for this over time, but you can see I've got it set up to where it's 100% on call notification and say 40% or so for the rest. So something I definitely recommend you do. Another thing I recommend you do is if we go ahead and scroll down to where we find sound quality and effects, we have the option to turn on Dolby Atmos. Now, this is something I definitely recommend you do, as it's going to give you better sound quality overall, particularly in movies and games, also in music when you're using headphones. It just enables a broader range of frequencies. It is tuned by Dolby and it really shows, and I think definitely translates to better sound. So definitely recommend you turn that on for better sound quality. And if you do want, there is also an EQ down here which you can set. This will be system wide, so will affect every audio that comes out of the device. You see you got a couple of presets. We can also customize these further if we like as well. Personally, I don't like to use an EQ, but I know some do, and that is where you find that setting. Now let's move on to battery health. Of course, battery health is so important because it's a large factor that will help determine how long your phone will last, or really how long until you need to do a difficult repair, and that is replacing the battery. So of course, for a phone like this that costs $2,000, you want to make sure it lasts as long as possible, and there is a setting that we can turn on to help prolong your battery health. So what we're going to do is go into settings, then tap onto battery, and then here we have battery protection, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now if I tap into it, we can also choose the different layers of battery protection, so we can either set it to basic or maximum. Now, my recommendation is to set it to basic and then turn on adaptive protection. So what that's going to do is adaptive protection, first of all, will stagger the charge. It will sort of know how you charge your phone. So typically, let's say at night, you plug it in at 11 p.m., unplug at 7 a.m. It'll stagger the charge during those hours, charge to 80%, wait with the remaining 20%, so when you typically unplug your phone. And then basic is not going to keep your battery at 100% for long. So this way, when your battery reaches 100%, it will slowly let it trickle down to 95 before then recharging to 100. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because essentially heat and capacity. So first of all, in terms of heat, particularly the adaptive protection, because that slows the charge, your battery won't produce as much heat, and that's going to help lessen the wear of your battery. Heat is probably the number one factor for battery degradation. And then secondly, setting the maximum capacity, it will still be at 100. However, for your battery's health, it's not good to be at 100% for too long. It's actually better to be at a lower max capacity, like say 80 or even 95, and that's exactly what this setting is going to do. So it's going to produce less heat and keep your battery away from that 100% capacity, where you don't want it trickling between 99% and 100%, etc., as that will produce more wear. So these two here are going to be the way to go, I think, for most people when it comes to battery protection. Now, I want to talk next about the taskbar. This is something that you see me activate and pull up throughout the video. It's kind of like a little dock, and as you can see, it essentially mirrors the bottom row of icons that you have on your home screen. And this is super useful because it so easily lets you pull up another application. So let's say here I'm in settings, I pull up the dock, and I can then just tap and drag right there. Boom, there goes your second app. So the dock, I think, or the taskbar is just super, super useful. but of course it is something that we need to activate in the settings. And to do this, we are going to go over on to the settings app, and then in here we're going to go on to display right there, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find the taskbar right here, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now we can tap into this to determine how we want the taskbar to activate. You'll see if we tap onto style, we can have it always be on screen, so regardless of which app I'm in, the taskbar will always show. Alternatively, we can also have it auto hide when your app is open, to where you just have to do like a small swipe up to bring it up. This I think is best, because this way it's not taking up screen space, yet it is still easy to reach. Now you'll see here that the top last three icons rather of my taskbar are going to be the three most recent applications, and this is a setting that we can also turn off if we like, or we can turn it on. Now if there's ever an application in your taskbar that you want to open but you don't see it here, tap on the icon here on the far left, and that will bring up your full app drawer to find any application that you need. So the taskbar, something I highly recommend you use. I think it really adds that tablet functionality to the Fold 7. And this brings us then next to the navigation bar. Now this is different from the taskbar. They sound similar, but let me quickly show you what I mean and why this is important. So over in settings, we'll jump into display just like before, and then we're going to tap onto where we find navigation bar right here, and this is where we can change from the traditional 3-button layout that you're probably familiar with on Android to the swipe gestures. Now let me show you why I think the swipe gestures is the better way to go. First of all, it gives you more screen space, right? It just this tiny little home bar here at the bottom. And secondly, activating things like switching between different apps, you can see all I have to do is swipe along the bottom of the display. I love this gesture. I use it all the time. This also works on other phones, by the way, and even things like accessing your app switcher. It's all just more fluid and I think faster when you use the navigation bar. And this way, of course, too, the dock or the taskbar won't be always on screen. So at the end of the day, I really recommend you switch over to the swipe gestures to get the most out of this phone. And I want to talk about the side button. That's the button here that's going to also incorporate your fingerprint sensor. You can customize this to set up to pretty much any system function or even launch any application. You'll see here, I've got it set to trigger the torch. Super useful if, say, I'm looking for my keys in my bag or something like that. It's great to have that at hand. Let me show you where to customize this. So what we're going to do is go into settings and then jump into advanced features. And here we have side button. And then here we can first of all enable a double press. That's what I just did. And then we tap into it and you can determine what that double press does. You can have it set a system function, launch your camera, or even open a specific app. And then secondly, we can also change what a long press does. You can either have that bring up the new Gemini digital assistant, which I think is quite good, or if you want to be more traditional, you can also have it just bring up your simple power menu as well. I think that can also be useful. By the way, to power off your device, simply swipe down from the system toggles and then there's your power button right there, and it'll bring you to the same menu as well. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the display, as of course the display is the single best feature of this powerful Fold 7, but we can make it even better with a few key settings here that I would love to show you. So over on the settings app, we're going to tap onto display. First of all, of course, this is where you can switch between your light and dark mode. I prefer light mode, particularly on the Fold, because as you can see in dark mode, the crease in the display, while much improved on the Fold, becomes just a little bit more visible, where in light mode you can see it kind of hides away a little bit better. So I prefer light mode for that reason. Plus I just find it easier on the eyes, though at night I do like dark mode, so you can set this here to a schedule. I've got mine set to the position of the sun. Beneath that we have your brightness. Now you've got auto brightness. I suggest you turn that on. I've got it off here, of course, because I am filming and I want the brightness to be static. And then here we have the motion smoothing. Now this is essentially going to determine whether the refresh rate of your display, you want to make sure that that is set to adaptive. It's going to give you up to 120 hertz, so your smoothing animations, any movement on screen is going to be super buttery smooth, where standard will cap it at 60 and basically limit your display. It'll make it feel more choppy. Some say it saves a little bit of battery. It doesn't save that much because the adaptive mode can still decrease the refresh rate all the way down to just 10 hertz. So if you are on a static screen, it will decrease the refresh rate, helping you save battery. So all in all, and I think for the improvement in the overall experience, definitely set this to adaptive. And beneath that, we have eye comfort shield. Now, if I turn this on, you'll see that the display gets a little bit of a yellowish hue, a little bit warmer hue. And that's because the whiteness of the screen is essentially going to match that to the temperature, the color temperature of your room or surrounding environment. This can make the screen more comfortable to look at, again, especially at night. Something I definitely recommend you use. The only instance where I wouldn't use this is if, say, you were editing photos or video where you want the colors to be super accurate. And then beneath that, we have also, if we go ahead and scroll down, we have your screen timeout. This one is important. You want to set this. This will basically determine after how much inactivity will your screen turn off. I actually suggest you set this to shorter, let's say 1 or even 2 minutes. You can set it all the way to 15 seconds. This is great for security, is of course, you leave your phone somewhere and it happens to be unlocked. You'll know that it will lock very quickly. But I like to set this at around the 1 to 2 minute mark and then turn on this feature, keep screen on while viewing. So let's say if you're reading a long article on a static page, you don't want your screen to turn off in front of you. It will use the camera every once in a while just to see if you are looking at the screen, and in that case, keep it on. And beneath that, we have, of course, your taskbar and navigation bar. These we have already turned on. Continue apps on cover screen, we've been there also. Next, we have accidental touch protection. That's something I do recommend you turn on if it's not on already. Right, this is a large screen, and sometimes your palm may just touch the screen. You don't want it to activate things or to swipe back or whatever. So definitely something I recommend you turn on. One last thing that I'm going to just show you real quick, back in the navigation bar, is circle to search. So circle to search is probably my single most used AI feature on the recent Galaxy phones, and let me quickly show you what this does. Let's say here in my gallery I want to go ahead and look up something that I took a picture of. I can go ahead and press and hold on the home bar, and I can then circle anything on screen. Let's say this beautiful macaron. Let's see if it gets that correctly. Let's see, mango passion fruit. Yes, it's even got the flavor, though I believe that one is vanilla if I'm not mistaken. Very delicious though. Mango sounds good too. But the point is, you can pretty much circle anything on screen and then get more information about it. Super useful. It doesn't just work in the gallery, it works in pretty much any application. Say even this video right now, if there's something on screen that you want to circle, simply press and hold the home bar, but you do need to make sure that this setting is turned on. So circle to search, make sure that that is on. And next, let's take a look at the new quick settings menu here on the Fold 7 or in One UI 8. And if we go ahead and swipe down from the top right corner, you see we get a pretty different layout from what you may be used to, where now your quick settings toggles have a completely separate page from your notifications. If we go ahead and pull those down from here, so they now have 2 entirely separate windows, and that allows for more space for each. I think it makes a lot of sense to switch between them, by the way. All you have to do is swipe to the left and right. Very useful. But what is neat is in this new quick settings toggle page, you can really heavily customize it. So if we tap on the pencil icon, you'll see that the system toggles are now grouped into individual panels that we can then tap and drag and rearrange. You want your most used ones there along at the top. Those will be easiest to access. And then these grouped panels here like this, we can tap on edit, see all the controls that are currently there. And here are the ones that you can add. So let's say I want to add the NFC one. Go ahead and drag that in there, and I can then even rearrange that within the panel if I like as well. And then press on the little minus button to erase it. So really great to have this deep level of customization. I definitely recommend you set this up to have only the controls that you find yourself using most. That helps you declutter and really get a lot of functionality out of this new quick settings user interface. Now, lastly, I have a really important setting that I think you must turn on, and that is called offline finding. So this is going to help you hopefully retrace and find back your device if it is ever lost or stolen. So let me show you where and how to do this in settings. So first of all, we're going to jump into where we find security and privacy right here. And in here, we are going to go into lost device protection, and then we have find my mobile. Tap into that. You want to make sure that offline finding is turned on. Now, what this is going to do is if, say, your phone is ever lost or stolen and it runs out of battery, or let's say it is turned off, it's still going to be able to try locate itself based on the location of surrounding Galaxy phones. This is really cool and unique tech. Of course, it is not a guarantee, but it is an additional chance of hopefully finding back your phone if it is ever lost or stolen. And this, I do believe, is off by default. I'm not sure why. I definitely recommend you turn this on. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 27 settings that you need to change on your Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to see more content like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.